This right here is the one long conversation with your pal, Skip.
Hi, Skip here. After a long hiatus, I went away for a couple months and wrote a book called The Change, which I'll never stop talking about for the next several months, and started the new one that you can see all over my walls. But today I'm back with a new episode of the One Long Conversation, or conversely, an old one that I recorded just before I went away with a very interesting gentleman named Phil Nobile Jr. He is the editor of FANGORIA magazine, FANGORIA being the premier magazine for horror movie fans. It's something I've been reading since it came out and have been appearing in since I first started writing splatterpunk style horror back in the 1980s. Phil is a really interesting guy, and we have an extremely wide-ranging conversation about horror, what it means, things we love, going all the way back to the latest people now, and the importance of life beyond horror, life as actual life, and the place where real life horror intersects with us politically, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so we're going to talk about some crazy shit here. We're going to be at it for a while. I think this is a great one, and I hope that you enjoy it. Waking and bacon is what I like to do. And it's so funny because we arranged for 11 o'clock, and then last night as I'm going to bed, I'm like, wait a minute, which 11 o'clock is it? And I'm like, he's East Coast, isn't he? And it turned out to be true. So I'm glad. I almost never set my alarm.
Oh, because you're in California.
Yeah, no, Portland, Oregon.
Oregon, oh, that's great.
Yeah, I airlifted out of LA a couple years ago. It priced me out like it's doing everybody.
Yeah.
But Portland is really nice, and so I woke up in time, and here we are. So
I'm glad we made it happen.
Wait, so due to a technical problem, the following people will be removed from the meeting when recording starts, and that's us.
We're the only two here.
What the fuck? Okay, I thought we were already recording.
It tells me that we're recording.
It tells me that we're recording.
It's called being recorded. Will be saved in John Skip's Google Drive.
Yeah, machine voodoo is a thing. Machines, they do what they want, and they sometimes do it mysteriously, and you just have to kind of ride that. I learned that being in rock bands and wanting an effects pedal to work or a recording to work or something, and then it's like it's not going to, and it won't until it wants to. And we can unplug it and plug it back in all we want to, but sometimes the machine is just like, fuck you, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So, now, is that a Fangorian level of metaphysical dread that we're inducing here, or is it just life is weird and shit? And is there
part of my daily uphill climb with Fangoria is making sure that we stay handcrafted, made by humans, no AI. I don't want to promote your AI. I don't want to hear about your generative AI. Don't tell me how this chat GPT saved you time on an email that I have to rewrite for you. Like I'm a Luddite. I'm becoming a Luddite, and I'm okay with it.
No, absolutely. I mean, I like certain machines. When I make music, I record on GarageBand, and GarageBand has these drummers that it sampled, and you can dial them and get them to play whatever kinds of things you want and so forth. And I find myself jamming with the machine a lot, but it's not like the machine is telling me what to do. It's like the machine and I are playing, and that's really different from saying, hey, machine, make me up something and then it makes you up something, and you go, "Aren't I clever?" It's like, no, not especially. I'd rather actually talk with you than with the Borg. You know,
Sure. Yeah.
with the
The bar is low, but it's an honor nonetheless.
dude. So I just read your column this morning, and just talking about George Romero, who was my man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know how much George meant to me or how important he was for me.
I've not heard your George Romero origin story or anything like that, so I don't know exactly how important he was to you.
Well, I mean, I had my first LSD flashback at the age of 13 in the middle of watching Night of the Living Dead at a theater. And from then on, it felt like a documentary. And and it just really, really embedded on my central nervous system, which is why I wound up, when I met Romero on the phone for the first time, because he was interested in directing a version of The Light at the End, our first novel. It's Punk's Vampire in the Subway novel. Our agents say George Romero would like to talk with you, and I'm like, holy fuck. So I'm on the phone with him, and at Craig Spector's house in York, Pennsylvania, in the days before cell phones. This is in the I don't know, like maybe 87,
Okay.
Early 88 or something. And he had one of those phones with a really, really long cord, and he had like a railroad apartment. So I'm pacing up and down kind of like the length of his house, talking with George. Craig was in Craig's office, and I just couldn't believe it. And at a certain point, I was smoking a joint. At a certain point, I'm like, so George, I mean, I know a lot of horror writers that love your movies almost as much as I do. What if we did a book of like what else happened when the dead started getting up? And he's like, well, I don't think anybody would give a shit, but as long as you don't use any characters or scenes from our movies, then my production partner won't sue your ass. And if you manage to pull this off, then I'll eat my hat. So I immediately contacted Stephen King and David Scow and Ramsey Campbell and Joe R. Lansdale and Robert McCammon and all these interesting writers and said, you want to do a story set in the Romero Night of the Living Dead universe, and which had never been done. And they were all like, yeah, that sounds amazing. And the result was Book of the Dead, and we sold like hundreds of thousands of copies, and just, it was a thing. And all of a sudden, zombie fiction, that was basically where zombie fiction, modern post-Romero zombie fiction started.
Yeah.
And so then he's like, I put spaghetti sauce on a Pittsburgh Steelers cap, and that's what I ate. And it was all good. And then, I went to the set of Monkey Shines and reported on it for Fango. And then I went to the set of Savini's remake and got to hang with George some more. And we were at the wrap party of Night of the Living Dead, and he just walks up to me and goes, "You really, really love this, don't you?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, you have no idea."
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was just it's such a huge thing for me. Just the idea that the dead next door are getting up. It's like your neighbor isn't coming over to borrow sugar; he's coming over to eat your face, and it's the whole basic idea of zombies being us with cleansed of soul, intelligence, and everything else, and now we're just these lumbering eating machines. To me, is just like such a fucking profound metaphor.
Sure.
And then years and years and years later, George did a book with Jonathan Mayberry called Nights of the Living Dead, which was basically him going back and doing other origin stories of how it started. And they asked me if I would do it. I'm sorry, man. This is supposed to be an interview with you, but I haven't stopped talking yet. But
That's okay.
I'll stop in a minute.
I'm good.
And so I wrote the story that I felt was very, very, very Romero about a racist, gun-crazed white nationalist who goes, "Oh, the dead are up and I can kill them. It's open fucking season. You know, it's like my libertarian wet dream. I can just go shoot anybody I want to." And I sent it in, and he was like, "This is great." And then the book came out, and we did a signing at Dark Delicacies in Burbank.
Yep.
And it was Jonathan Mayberry and Dave Scow and I, and a bunch of people came and got their books signed. And, at the end, Mayberry's on his phone. He says George would like to get some pictures of the three of you. So we took the pictures. Jonathan sent them. George was really happy, and that night he died.
Oh man. Wow.
And it was like, fuck. Oh, and I, as I opened up the book, I saw that he had dedicated it to me.
Wow.
And so, yeah, my George story is deep and rich, and you just got the highlight reel.
But how lucky you are to have that experience and just have carrying that around with you. I mean, it's a gift, right? It's so cool that he was such a. I got to have dinner with him once, right? I don't have this experience that you had, but like he was just telling stories and you know, he was holding court over this group of sort of film students, and the dinner was his idea. He was supposed to just come to the school and show a movie. And he said, "Hey, if you got a film club or something like that, we can get dinner and talk." And my friend, I wasn't even at this school, but my friend taught there. And he said, you know George's work. Come sit and sort of like be the MC for that dinner. And it's a memory I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. And that's what I mentioned in that the newsletter today was that he shared that weird detail that Ed Harris asked him to edit Pollock.
Amazing.
That year, the same year that we had the dinner with him, 2000, he said it just didn't work out. The logistics of how they wanted to cut it wasn't how I wanted to work, and so it didn't happen. But you know, George, I'm like, my ears perked up because my you know, as a kid you watch whatever crap was at the video store, but when you put in a Romero movie, you're like, well, this is different. Why is this different? And then you start realizing it's the cuts, it's how he's putting these shots together, and then you see that he's editing his own movies, and you're like, oh, this is how movies are made. Literally, like it was a little light bulb in my little preteen brain. Oh, this guy's making this movie with his two hands and he's putting it together. And that was a really special, like weird closed loop when he was like, yeah, Ed Harris wanted me to edit Pollock. And I was like, yeah, because I did say I missed you editing your own movies.
Yes.
Because they're different. Like his movies changed after he stopped editing them a little bit, I think.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. And again, going back to handcrafted, just the fact that, you know, he was doing it on a moviola. He was doing it the old fangled way, and that was what he was comfortable with. And thank God for that. I've heard people say that the two most American filmmakers are George Romero and Russ Meyer, and and I always, you know, just like, you know, not studio dudes, just handmade films by craftsmen. I don't know what you think about Russ, but I think Faster Pussycat is one of the coolest movies in the world. But George, yeah, it was that hands-on thing. He knew the movie he wanted to make, and he knew why he wanted to make it. I think the sense of purpose underlying his movies was the other thing that really mattered to me. Just the fact that he wanted to say things about the culture, and he wanted to say them in a very pointed, really hard to fucking miss way, that became super clear with Dawn of the Dead. But I mean, it's there with it's there from the beginning.
What's your take on his lore, where he said, well, we weren't trying to make a statement with Night of the Living Dead. Dwayne Jones was just the best actor. And I almost like that version where they stumbled into the fact that they made this great statement and then leaned into it for the next, you know, decade and change. But or do you think he's full of shit and that he knew that what he was doing the whole time?
Well, I think that it's probably a matter of them both being true. Of like, okay, this is the best actor, but making that choice making that choice, and saying, okay, no, the black dude is the guy, and it changes what happens, but we're going to play it straight up. You know, he knew what he was doing. But he didn't go in to do that. He found it and went, oh, dude, and then he downplayed it, um, um, because he didn't want to make himself a white boy civil rights icon. Um, but the fact of the matter is, he's one of the good guys, and the fact that he ran with that riff from then on says a lot.
Yeah.
I think, you know, he was such a good dude, and he was such a he was a moral filmmaker in a world that does not necessarily value that, or spends a lot more time giving lip service to it than actually practicing it. And that's one of the reasons why his stuff, you know, I don't think that that Dawn of the Dead was unrated just because a head blew up and some intestines were eaten. I think it was a slap in the face to the industry in general, and the fact that it triumphed at the level that it did is just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Yeah, to me, he's not just a horror hero; he's a film hero and like a model of the kind of dude you want to be.
That's it. That's basically it. You know, I grew up listening to you know, like rock bands that were said they were going to change the world. You know, that they convinced us that we were supposed to. And George was right there with that, with his messaging. And
Yep.
it's so dispiriting to see people in my generation act like that shit didn't happen. Like it wasn't particularly subtle. You know,
No.
I mean, it was sort of broad stroke satire and commentary. And that anybody would have a problem with filmmakers, horror filmmakers in particular, being political now is crazy to me, because we grew up with it. You just forgot that that's what was going on in those movies, maybe.
Yeah, or you didn't take it as a personal assault. But I mean, you know, white race. Joe Lansdale has an incredible story called Night They Missed the Horror Show. And it starts with a couple of characters who wouldn't go to the drive-in because they heard because some movie called Night of the Living Dead was playing, and I'm going to use the non-offensive word. They knew a black dude was in it, and they didn't want to see no movie with a black main actor. And so then they go off and all this horrible shit happens. They would have been much better off watching the movie. But yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, that stirred some shit then. It's just that, I mean, we're in a period of cultural upheaval now that is in some ways comparable to the 60s, which I was a little kid for. I was living in Argentina, listening to Jimi Hendrix and the Grateful Dead and Frank Zappa and the Beatles and so forth, because I had a friend who had an older brother going to college in Berkeley. He would send these care packages. So I was like a 9-year-old who was super attuned to the revolution and the desire to change the world and everything. Living in a country where the police carried submachine guns. I was living in a police state.
Wow.
You know, where I would see death on the street. And so those messages really, really resonated. The weird thing is that in the 60s, the right was in, I mean, the left was in rebellion, and with the exception of like the Leather Underground and a few other groups, it was mostly a nonviolent revolution. This time, the right is in revolt, and they're armed as fuck, and
In power.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Running shit. Yeah.
It is a fucking weird time to be alive. But I mean, I've always sort of felt like we live in horror times, and it's just never been truer than it is right now, at least for America. But it's always been there. I mean, you know, be a black dude in 1956 or anywhere from the beginning of the country to 1956, before the civil rights movement, and I think they would tell you they were living in horror times.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, this is intense. I mean, this is our first authoritarian takeover bid, and it's going swell. If you like that sort of thing.
I guess I thought the apocalypse would be cooler.
Yes.
And I guess I thought we'd all be fooled into it by someone smarter.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how political you want to get on this here conversation, but like that it's such a pack of dipshits who just decided, well, what if we don't follow any of these rules? And then it turns out there's no plan to do anything about it when they don't follow any of the rules that we've been living by for 200 years. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, no, it is really weird to get kidnapped by dummies, by mean, greedy, narcissistic, sociopathic dummies who think they're the smartest fuckers in the world. And well, the whole rest of the world is going, you guys are nuts. The thing that I like is that everybody's finally catching on to the fact that these motherfuckers are nuts. Yeah. And you can't use rational political arguments to make sense of this. There's a dude named Michael Wolff that has written a bunch of books about Trump, and one of the things that he said that I thought was really, really smart is, this guy doesn't think of himself as the president. He thinks of himself as the world's biggest star.
Yeah.
And if you just look at it that way and realize that everything that he's doing is just trying to cultivate the grandest extension of his used to have a popular television series reality star thing, then you have a much better chance of understanding what the fuck is actually going on, because he doesn't give a shit about the politics. He doesn't even understand them. He's a dumbass. But he knows how to get what he wants. He's cunning. He's just not smart. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but we could probably talk about all the other horror stuff too.
Sure.
Like, for example, what's your origin story on this? How did you find out that you loved horror, and what made you pursue it to the astonishing extent that you have?
Well, sure. I mean, I didn't love horror. I was terrified by horror. My first movie memory is The Exorcist. The theatrical run, watching The Exorcist at the drive-in. Now, consider I'm in New Jersey, so it's not 73 because The Exorcist opened at Christmas. No drive-ins open at Christmas in New Jersey. So it must have played for a year, which happened back then. And I saw it the summer probably of 74 at the drive-in. And when I watch The Exorcist now, and I love The Exorcist because you can watch it at different decades of your life and take different things away. Watch it as a child, you dial in on one experience. Watch it as a parent, you dial in on another experience. Watch it as a guy whose parents have died. Suddenly you're with Father Karras. It's such a rewarding movie over time. But whenever I watch it now, there are like specific shots in the bedroom that I zap back to the drive-in, which is very weird. And I don't quite understand how that works and why that moment is what it is. But horror scared the shit out of me as a kid. And I had, I'm the fifth of 7 kids. So I had 4 older siblings who, they're going to torment the younger kids. So they would make you watch stuff and traumatize you and scare the crap out of you. And, and I struggled with horror because of that. And then one of my brothers got me Tom Savini's makeup book, and some other book. I think it's still on the shelf over there, but it was put out by the Consumer Reports. It's called The Best, Worst, Most Unusual Horror Films. I still have the book on the shelf over there. But
hey, did I just see the Phantom of the Paradise mask?
Sure you did. Yeah. Come on. But when I started to approach horror movies as craft, as things that were made by human beings, by this guy in Pittsburgh, let's say, right? It became so relatable, and it became like this weird, like, attainable universe. Like, oh, you could go do that? That's a thing that you can go and do. You don't have to be in Hollywood. Like, these guys in Pittsburgh are making horror movies. So that kind of started a little electrical storm in my brain, and I got very into makeup effects, and I got very into renting anything I could get my hands on. As we talked about, that's where I found good filmmakers versus not great filmmakers. You know, when you rented, oh, this is a De Palma movie, it's kind of different than Sleepaway Camp 2, right? So,
Yeah.
And horror and sifting through the horror gave me a kind of a taste for craft and for filmmaking, and I kind of probably a similar story to a lot of other people that led me beyond horror into other things. I became a big fan of like John Cassavetes and Bud Bedeker's westerns and you know, just different people with their stamp on things fascinated me and enthralled me, and so that's sort of my origin story. I dabbled with filmmaking as like a 23-year-old. I made a little short and it won some awards and stuff, but I hated it. I hated the experience. I hated having to wrangle actors. I hated having to secure a location. I hated all of it so much that I was like, oh, I think I just like watching movies. maybe I don't like making movies. So
God bless you for that, because I mean, yeah, not to interrupt, but it's really funny. And so many horror writers that I know are only read by other horror writers at this point. You know, that's the whole fucking audience. It's so insular. And the really wonderful thing is, what about the people who just want to read it? What about the people who just want to watch it? Do you want to make anything for those guys? What do you think?
Yeah. I struggle with that a lot in the horror film space too, because we're now into a space, well, and I guess we have been for a number of years, where you're getting horror films by people who only watch horror films. And they're not interested in doing something that feels real or authentic. They want to do something that riffs on their faves.
Yes.
And I get that. I'm, you know, masturbation's for everybody. I get it. It's fine. But what's exciting to me is that George Romero wanted to make a Tarzan movie. John Carpenter wanted to make a Western. These guys had rich palettes of taste that went beyond horror, and I think that's why their movies are so special, because they understand the language of cinema and they understand the compulsion to tell a story. And it wasn't just like, me and my friends are going to go get fucked up with gore in the woods, which you know, has its place. It doesn't. But you know, Sam Raimi, who made his bones with some of the best horror movies of the century, also did really incredible work outside of genre. You know, he's not confined to it. And I think that's something that's coming back now. You know, Jordan Peele was a comedian for 20 years and then made a horror movie. That's a new voice. That's interesting. That's exciting.
Absolutely. No, I mean, if you watch Key and Peele, the love of horror was so palpable in that stuff that when I found out that he was going to be making a horror movie, it's like, well, that makes sense. Can't wait to see that shit. And of course, he's great at it. Yeah, I love his stuff.
But there's a lot of negativity and fandom about folks who kind of like, I guess you'd call it gatekeeping, but it's gatekeeping from the people in the back of the parking lot. You know, like fans deciding who should and shouldn't make horror movies makes me crazy. And I get a lot of blowback because I dare to have interests beyond horror. You know, I don't know if you follow any of my other shit, but I've been in books about the James Bond franchise. I love a lot of different things besides horror, but you know, horror is where it all started for me. So I was super stoked to be asked to edit the magazine that I grew up, the magazine that made me fall in love with horror, really. So, you know, I don't want it to be so stagnant and incestuous that we're not like waving in, you know, new voices and new people.
Well, and I love the fact, reading the magazine now, you have smart writers, y'all clearly give a shit about what you're doing. I think it's as passionate and incisive as it has ever been, and more so than at a lot of phases of its long tenure here on this earth. I think it's a really good magazine.
I appreciate that.
And just the fact that it's a magazine, you guys are actually putting out a magazine in 2026, right? When so many of them have gone by the wayside, and that it's I mean, I'm a subscriber.
I appreciate that.
I appreciate having a magazine I want to subscribe to.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of next week will be 8 years that I've been editor of the magazine, and it's very much a work in progress. And people don't believe me, but I'm always trying to figure out like how to tweak it and dial it in and change it a little bit. But like from the start, I knew Mike Gingold had to be involved, and I knew Tony Timpone had to be involved. Like those were the guys I read when I was reading it, and
both great guys.
Yeah. And there's sometimes there are complaints about like, why doesn't it have it's not as gory as it used to be, and there's not as many pictures. And I just spent a week in the archives of Fangoria, and I've written about this too, but like from a studio, I'll get about 6 pictures, maybe 8 if I tell them it's enough pages. Tony got 70 color stills from The Fly to choose from, including the entire ending of the movie. It was a different era. You can't really expect studios to want to play ball with a print magazine the way that they did in 1986, when that was the only place that you could promote your horror movie was Fangoria, right?
Right.
But now it's all this other stuff. I just wish that they would meet me where I am on my schedule a little bit more, because just as an example, like I just got turned down for some pictures that I know are going to be on the makeup artist's Instagram the Monday after that movie comes out. Like, and I still won't be on the shelves, right? But because it's 2 months earlier, they don't want to give me those pictures yet. Like I'm going to run to the internet with them. It's a struggle. But
that's really interesting.
We are finding like that there are folks who get it and who want to play ball. Our next subscriber cover is probably not going to be allowed to be shown on the internet. It's incredibly graphic, and it's I don't want to say off-putting, but it would be off-putting to a certain class of reader. But it's one of the gnarliest covers I've ever published. And I can't believe this studio said yes. And I'm really grateful to them. So I don't want to like say everybody's being dicks about the pictures. Some folks are really showing up, and it's great.
I got to say, I really enjoyed the recent coverage on 28 Years Later, Bone Temple. I think those movies are magnificent. I think they are game elevating works. I think Alex Garland is just such a fucking great writer. But both Danny and Nia DaCosta killed that shit. And it's amazing to see a legendary, like one of the great actors of our age, centered in this film in this beautiful, extremely human role, and him playing off both Samson, who I think is fucking phenomenal character, and then Jimmy. Fuck it, the conversation between Dr. Ian and Jimmy down by the water is just one of the best things.
You they got that page and they were like, we're gonna eat this up. Like it's a singular moment for both those actors, I think, who have done amazing work other places, but like what a showcase. And I'm really pissed off that movie's not doing better at the box office, because I loved Bone Temple. I loved 28 Years Later, but I think I like Bone Temple even more. And I didn't expect to. I was surprised by that. But
it builds on it. I mean, there's real thought. Like serious A-game thought being put into this whole thing. I can't wait to see what the third one does.
The third one's a little in jeopardy right now because the second one didn't make a whole lot of money at the box office. I hope it does. But just to put I just want to mention, and I don't want to spoil the end of Bone Temple for anybody, but the last scene in Bone Temple to me felt like, so I used to sort of think of like certain movies as like response songs to other movies. Like, like there was like the old rhythm and blues, like there was a song called Bearcat, which was a response song to Hound Dog. And I thought like, certain movies feel like that to me. And to me, the end of this movie felt like a response song to the end of Night of the Living Dead. Like in terms of like, and in a 180 kind of way. Again, I'm trying not to spoil it, but like the last dialogue exchange in this movie feels like it crystallized a moment that we're living in a way that I don't even think the movie could have predicted. Because when they filmed it, like Minnesota wasn't under siege and stuff, but like, I don't know. I got emotional at the end of this movie because it felt so resonant to what's happening right now in the world. and in the way that the ending of Night of the Living Dead felt like an encapsulation of what was going on right then, right? So
I can't even tell you, man, how that felt at the time to be watching it.
yeah.
Oof, oof. Yeah, no, and this is the thing. I mean, horror movies with profound human resonance that take the time to actually get you to invest in the characters beyond a superficial level uh, is such a great art to me. And I mean, there are certain filmmakers. I'm gonna fucking just go there, okay? Lucio Fulci makes me crazy. Lucio Fulci makes me crazy because there are no recognizable human emotions besides fear and more fear in his movies, in his horror movies. And I was at a point where I was like, is this guy like emotionally stunted? Does he not understand that we have other feelings? And then I saw his Western, Four of the Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Characters laugh and cry and care about each other in like human ways in here. Where the fuck is that in his horror movies? It's nowhere is where the fuck it is. And it makes me crazy because it's like it was like there was a sensibility that said, let's winnow horror down to a handful of things, and those are the things that matter. And as long as you address those things, then you've got a great horror movie. And I'm like, dude, you can pop all the eyeballs in the world that you want, and the one thing I will never say about Lucio Fulci is that he did not deliver the goods when it came to the gore. I mean, there's so much Italian gusto in these effect sequences, and his blood is some of the greasiest, most intense-looking blood that ever sprayed on a screen. But that same blood was in Four of the Apocalypse when somebody took a shotgun blast. But I was sad for the person as opposed to watching a disposable meat puppet get squeezed, for our entertainment. Scott and I used to talk about this shit all the time. It's like characters that only get interesting when their blood hits the ceiling.
Yeah. Fulci didn't seem interested in the range of human experience in his horror movies. It was more about like the sustained tone of a nightmare, which I guess I can certainly appreciate that for sure. But when we're able to kind of like widen it up a little bit and have moments of like relatable human moments, which I think happens in, of course, Romero's movies, and really kind of blows up in Korean films where they're almost operatic in how many emotions are sort of contained in there, and the tonal shifts that happen within that are so exciting, and we're seeing that kind of bleed into the Western storytelling a little bit too now, right?
I'm with you a trillion percent. The Koreans blow my mind with how scrupulous they are in making sure that all the emotional notes get hit. I've never wept in a theater for a zombie film the way I wept during Train to Busan.
Mm-hmm.
That thing just yanked me so hard, and it's funny and it's scary and it's intense and it's actiony and it's got all the stuff. But there were a couple of moments that are so heartbreaking and beautiful that it just stuns me. And anytime that leaks into Western film, I'm incredibly happy. I got to say, the boys that did Bring Her Back and Talk to Me, those guys understand the full range of human emotion really, really well.
And who saw that coming from a couple of knuckleheads that were doing skateboard prank videos on YouTube before this? Like, when you read it, the press, like, oh, these YouTubers are making a horror movie. You're like, okay, let's see what that's about. And then I watched it and I was like, oh shit, shame on me. Because
we didn't know. How are you supposed to know?
Yeah, sure.
But then they show up. I mean, I think Talk to Me is like such an astonishingly brilliant film. And the way that it uses the horror as a party game, a teenage party game, and then the deeper implications thereof. I mean, who hasn't been to a teenage party that was like this close to careening horribly wrong. And
yeah, it was like, I can't believe that someone hadn't thought of that already, because like we used to do things like knock each other unconscious, like, like cut off our air supplies when we were kids, just to see, like,
what happened
as a goof, and these kids were dipshits. And I do think Talk to Me is the beginning of a trend in horror, which I'm all about. I love it, of dipshit kids. There's an uptick, and I don't want to name names in case somebody doesn't really think that their movie's full of dipshit kids. But like, if you look, suddenly we've got a lot more dipshit kids in movies than we used to in the years since Talk to Me, and I think it's a good trend.
That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to think about that. I don't watch teenage horror movies. Are not my jam right now, unless they're really doing something. But I mean, to me, the first great one of this era was It Follows. It follows the great writer Cody Goodfellow and I saw that at the movie right behind the theater right behind the Cinerama Dome in LA. I can't remember what it's called right now, but we had to hug it out in the parking lot. Man, that thing got under our skin really bad. We're sitting there like holding cigarettes and shaking and going, Jesus Christ, what did we just see?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that was the one that also worked like on a real emotional level, just being on that journey with that girl and it just coming at you from wherever. That to me is a really great example of nightmare logic.
Yeah.
There are elements of that movie that don't track naturalistically.
The weird readers in their hands, like it's not our world, right? And there's just gentle, subtle hints that it's not our world. And again, another voice that kind of showed up and did that, and then did a complete non-horror thing. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you've not seen Under the Silver Lake,
I have very mixed feelings about it.
I was enamored of like the insane journey that movie took me on, that you just didn't see coming, really. But
and I always appreciate that. If there's one thing that I love is watching a movie I haven't seen a trillion times already.
Yeah,
that isn't just replicating the great moves of other movies, probably better ones.
Right.
He is an original filmmaker, and I really appreciate that. And sometimes I have to go back and reappraise things. Sometimes I'm just not in the right mood for. I never liked Hitchcock's Vertigo. That was a movie that was just like, and this is a big deal because what? And but I kind of went on a Hitchcock jag recently and watched some ones I'd never seen that I thought were astonishing, like Lifeboat and Shadow of a Doubt, and went back and watched Rear Window, which I loved the first time and loved even more this time. And I'm like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to look at Vertigo again. And it's still not anywhere near my favorite Hitchcock,
right?
But it's really fucking good.
Yeah.
And I think what I didn't like was how what a twisted little asshole the main character was. Just how he's just making all the wrong choices all the way through in ways that just made me like, but then I hear that it's one of his most personal films, and that some of the things that were making me crazy about that character were the things that made Hitchcock crazy about himself. And then you go, oh, okay. Warts and all autobiography can be rough. But also watching Frenzy for the first, second, fourth, and fifth times.
I was gonna bring up Frenzy. Go ahead.
I love Frenzy.
Yeah,
I love Frenzy, man.
I came to Frenzy late, but here's my weird autobiographical take on Frenzy is that I watched it shortly after I got sober, and I was really enamored with the way he painted this guy as just a guy whose drinking was ruining everything in his life, up to and including implicating him in a murder.
Yes,
and it was like, it was just such a great portrayal of a mean drunk in a way that we hadn't maybe seen alcoholism portrayed in a movie before. alcoholism was it was either a social ill like Lost Weekend, you know, Ray Milland wins his Oscar for this brave portrayal of alcoholism, or it's played for laughs, like Charlie Chaplin movie. Charlie Chaplin goes to like a clinic to cure his dipsomania or something in one of his films, and it's always played for like laughs or pathos. But like Hitchcock uses alcoholism in Frenzy to sort of render his, or dare you to sympathize with a character, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's such an unflattering portrayal of drinking, and it's such an ugly movie, and it's all comes out of, it's his ugliest, angriest movie, I think. And I love it.
But it's also really fucking funny, man. Every time the poor detective goes home and his wife has made another piece of like nightmare food with like claws coming out of it.
Yeah.
It's fucking hilarious.
And one of the horrible concoctions she's made is a margarita. Like, because in 1971 England, they're like, "What the fuck is this?" And she's like, tequila. She calls it tequila in the movie. Yes. Tequila, lime, and these guys are just gagging it down. And I'm like, well, but then some of the stuff she was making was truly repellent
and hilarious.
Yeah,
and just the whole potato truck scene, man.
Mm-hmm.
Is such an astonishing set piece. It stunned me to hear that Tarantino doesn't like Frenzy. It was like, how can, it's too mean for you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I love Tarantino.
I love his work. His opinions are kind of wacky. He thinks Psycho 2 is better than Psycho. And I mean, come on now.
Yeah. No, he's, if there's one thing he loves, it's his opinions.
Yeah.
And that's always a warning sign for me. It's sort of like, okay, I like movies too. I like a lot. But really? But it is funny because I did read his book of opinionation on film, and then just like recently really watched Bullet as a grown-up for the first time. And there was some really useful information in there about how Steve McQueen and specifically his wife cut almost every line of dialogue out of that movie from him, so that he's just looking at you while people are saying all these things that ordinarily he'd be, damn it, no, or, any of the things, and he just says nothing. And it's like, that's a really interesting choice, so I do appreciate his encyclopedic adoration of the minutia of Hollywood and old Hollywood in particular.
Sure.
He's a really smart dude, and I mean, I remember when I quit horror in the 90s. The horror scene, the mainstream publishing horror had crashed and burned. We'd been marked down by Bantam. We sold millions of books for them, and all of a sudden they didn't give a shit. And I had a nervous breakdown. My whole world blew up. And I went to the World Horror Convention to announce that I was out. And leaving there, I went to a movie theater to see this new movie that I'd been hearing about called Reservoir Dogs. And I sat down in the theater, and very quickly I was like, y'all are in fine. You're all in good hands. I could die now and know that you guys are taken care of.
Yeah.
As it turns out, I didn't. But
thank God.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty happy about it too. I'm one of those people who really, really, really didn't expect to make it past 30, and now I'm almost 69. Almost everybody I know is as surprised as I am that I'm still here. But yeah, clean living, baby.
It's weird, man. Getting older is weird because I still feel like the kid that was going and getting the Fango at the store and looking at the makeups and obsessing over them, and I still feel like that person's me. But good God, the years are piling up, and the perspective of age is such that a year when you were 10 sure isn't a year when you're 55.
Oh, no, no,
It
no,
just
no, no,
goes,
no, no, no. It's like somebody grabbed the concept of a year and strapped it to a rocket.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. No, it's really funny. Uh, I don't know if you remember in Mad Magazine, they used to have a thing, a guy named Al Jaffe did snappy answers to stupid questions.
Yeah, yeah.
My favorite one is there's this older than God man in a bed with IVs and all kinds of stuff strapped to him. There's the young Jimmy Olsen like cub reporter asking, "To what do you attribute your long life?" And snappy answer number one, it's the only one I remember. It's like, "To the fact that I haven't died yet." And yeah, I mean, I think all old people have the child that they were either still active within them or entombed within them. You know, just basically they lost their joy, they calcified, they turned gray, and that's not necessarily an age thing. I've seen I've seen I've seen people lose their souls in their 20s.
Yeah.
You know, just like age out of it. The people for whom high school was the height, and it was all fucking downhill from there.
Yeah.
You know, at a certain point, you either roll with it or you you fossilize. And the fossilization of soul is one of the saddest things I think we can bear witness to on this earth, because it's you know, Pablo Casal, the great classical cellist, he's 90 years old, and somebody comes to interview him, and he's arthritic and he's old and he's in a lot of pain, and he wanders over to the piano and he starts to play, and as he plays he just kind of loosens up and comes back to life. And the reporter is watching this, and he's just like, wow, you know, what makes you at this age, having accomplished so much and gone through all, you know, this amazing life and everything, what makes you sit down to play? And he says, I think I might be making progress. So that dude's soul wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think it's important. I think it's a really useful thing.
Yeah, and you know, you can kind of like, so there's people are throwing a lot of Orwell quotes around lately, but there's a lesser known Orwell quote that I love that says, by age 50, each man has the face he deserves. And I think about that a lot when people talk about someone like, say, Barbara Crampton, who is just radiant, right? And she's, you know, she's not ashamed of her age. She's 67 years old, and it's the person you are inside presents one way or another. It's going to present on the outside, and I think that, like, these folks that we talk about with their souls dying, they're kind of, and these folks that we've been talking about earlier that are kind of cheering on the demise of our country, they're kind of wearing it on their face, and you can see it.
Yep.
And it's I take a little bit of comfort in the fact that these people are, like, you know, running themselves into a premature grave by just living these ideals that are harmful to their neighbor and ultimately to the planet, right? So and also it's a vanity thing, because I'm 56 and people say, oh, you don't look 56. And I'm like, well, that's because I'm not like these people over here. But you know,
yeah, because my soul isn't eating me from the inside, like a bunch of parasitic worms.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think the only thing I'd argue there is the word premature, because some of these people seem like they're like fucking lasting forever.
Yeah, they're hanging on. They're hanging on, but they don't look great.
No.
And, you know, I posted something this morning. I said, I don't think it's healthy for us in general to be checking our phones all day to see if somebody has died.
No.
But I am.
It is kind of the definition of unhealthy fixation, but it's not just like idle neurosis. It's like a survival tip. Please let me know what the temperature is. Am I going to fry today, or do I get to walk in the sun? No, it's intense, man. This is a really, really intense time to be alive. But again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think that horror is the fiction of worst case scenarios, and is therefore uniquely equipped to address the damage of a culture gone mad. And that to me is its main value. I mean, I like a good gore gag as much as the next guy, probably more than the guy after that. But to me, it's really about addressing the damage and honestly assessing where we are through the uninhibited lens of horror and dark comedy, which are two great tastes that taste great together.
Yeah.
And I think also that horror is not so much. Horror is absolutely a genre, but it's also an emotion, and I think the secret ingredient in most of the other fictions that we love, the fear of death and the tension around it, and the question of the soul and where it goes and what it does, if there is in fact one at all, is something that adds value to every other genre. I remember there was a point right around the point where the movie Looker came out. Do you remember that science fiction?
The Michael Crichton story.
No, Looper.
Oh, Looper, Rian Johnson. Yep, got it.
Yes. I'm sorry. When Looper came out, I thought that it had a couple of like the most astonishing horror scenes I had seen in years. It's not a horror movie, but Jesus Christ, when the guy is getting voodoo taken apart, I mean, that was an astonishing sequence in a science fiction movie. And I feel like war movies are replete with horror moments that that's what gives them their sting. It's just like the real life depictions of what the horrors that men do, as opposed to the monsters that we put in to substitute for them.
Sure.
In the Rod Serling Twilight Zone sort of way, that they won't let me say these things on television unless I have a ghost or a Martian say it.
Right.
Yeah, we can tell uncomfortable truths, and that's I think our main value on this earth, aside from being decent people and maybe trying to show each other a good time.
Yeah. And in certain moments in history or culture, that ability to smuggle something in is going to be more useful than other times. Sometimes we can say it out loud, and sometimes we got to couch it in something. And I love horror as like that delivery vessel, this Trojan horse that we can kind of like put some interesting or important messages into, to be consumed by an audience that either knows to look for it or maybe might get surprised by it. And I think both are equally valid,
I love you Trojan horsing that. That's really, really good, because a lot of times you do have to sneak it in. A lot of times, yeah, that's one of the things that I always loved is like, I came here to party and I walked away with thoughts I didn't know I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really, really wonderful thing. And I mean, that's what smart artists do in any genre. I've been watching a lot of Criterion Channel lately, and I just did a huge Howard Hawks binge, and now I'm watching like pre-code movies by what was it? What's his fucking name?
Wilder?
No. I'm a fugitive from a chain gang. and Little Caesar.
Muni? No, that's the star. What are we talking about here?
What's this fucking name, man?
The director?
Yeah.
He's going to the computer. I'm ashamed that I don't know.
It's pissing me off because I've been saying his name all week because I'm watching his crazy movies. What the hell?
Yeah, Paul Muni's the star of I Am a Fugitive from the Chain Gang, but the director is Mervyn LeRoy.
Mervyn LeRoy.
Ah.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting because these are pre-code movies. So I watched one last night called Heat Lightning.
Okay.
And it's two sisters who run a little gas station, diner, and a couple of sheds that you can sleep in for the night if you're driving across the desert and you just can't fucking take it anymore.
Okay.
And the older sister is like the mechanic and the one that changes your oil and so forth. And she doesn't want her little sister going off and getting into trouble with men. And then it turns out that she was a showgirl in Reno, but we don't find that out until a couple of criminals who just robbed a bank and killed some people show up at the diner, and she used to be in love with one of them. So there's all this simmering lust and corruption and everything in this. It's the kind of movie that made the Hays Code happen.
Yeah,
because you're saying this a little bit too clearly. There's adult content in here. Nobody slips a nip or anything, but there's adult content in here that anybody who knows is just going to go ooh, and anybody who doesn't is going to go oh. But yeah, I mean, just the power of art to illuminate life is one of the great things. To me, the two main values of art are that, and then just letting us know that we're not alone. That other people have these experiences or have these feelings. And that's why I get so mad at Lucio Fulci. It's like, dude, if there's one thing I've never had, it's the feeling of being in a Lucio Fulci movie.
Well, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But I mean, I wouldn't want that feeling, not only because I wouldn't want to have the experience of almost, watching my girlfriend puke her guts out, literally, but also I wouldn't want to be reduced to that tiny a bandwidth of experience.
Yeah.
And
that's sort of why I don't know what your dreams are like, but that's why I said his movies are like nightmares, because I don't have lucid dreaming. My dreams are very like rigid and very confined, and especially the nightmares, and they're not like the world doesn't expand, it gets smaller for me in my nightmares, and that's why that sort of like that boxed in feeling of like you said, reduced bandwidth is like, that's where my brain goes when I see like a Fulci film. That's really fascinating. And okay, I'm going to give him more credit than I have just by virtue of that landing for you that way. I don't even know if it's on purpose, but
we don't know. But again, I mean, I have realized that almost all of my favorite movies, the movies that mean the most to me, have deep echoes of the unconscious in them. That they are speaking to the place beyond this place, and they have an internal resonance that I feel rather than think.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. And then I'm afraid, doing this podcast, I'm afraid that certain stories come up more than once, and apologies to anybody if this is happening. But I also realize, okay, if there's one band I don't like, it's ABBA. I do not like the music of the band ABBA. I do not like Dancing Queen. I do not like Mamma Mia. That shit doesn't.
Waterloo? No.
It doesn't do it for me.
Sure.
It's like the opposite of what I want music to do.
Okay.
So one day I went to an event from KCRW, the great California radio station, and I was driving back with my friend, and she turns the radio on, and Dancing Queen is playing, and I'm about to turn and say something smart ass about it, and then I look at her face, and she was so happy listening to the song and singing along with it, and I just thought, if this music makes you that happy, then I need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And just let you enjoy it, which I did. And I have never hated ABBA nearly as much as I did before that moment. Now I'm sort of like, that's on me. You know, it's just not, it's not hitting my button, but it doesn't mean that it shouldn't exist because you made my friend so happy. That's all.
Yeah, and I kind of bristle at like it's to generalize. I call it a kind of a broy response when folks hate on something that very clearly it wasn't meant for them.
Yeah,
you know, it's like it's okay. Like, you know, there's the internet meme, let people enjoy things, but like there's a lot of folks stomping around wondering why everything's not catering to them, and I think that's just a recipe for unhappiness. You know, you got to find the things you love. You got to let these people find the things they love. And, you know, if you can get some cross pollination going and you can sort of see what somebody else loves in something, why would you not welcome a new experience into your brain? Why would you not want to sort of experience anything in someone else's shoes for a hot minute? That's magic, right?
Yeah. As opposed to the calcification we were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
I think that basically the kind of people who stomp around doing those kinds of things, live in the echo chamber of their own vaulted skull. You know, we're a tight little organization here. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, I know how I feel, and that's the way things should be. And anybody who doesn't think that is stupid or evil or must be punished. And it's like, no, dude. On the one hand, I urge you to lighten up, or on the other hand, I suggest that you fuck right off. Either way, just, you know, keep that shit to yourself, or, you know, just go talk with your angry friends about it, because I don't think that a license to punish each other is like a thing that life hands out. Well.
Yeah, I mean, I've said before something about how like everybody's kind of walking around with a certain amount of pain, but there are some folks who just seem to need to spread it like herpes to other people, and you know, it doesn't multiplying it and passing it around and paying it forward doesn't take away your own. So I don't know if that's a path forward, really.
What it does is, you know, I mean, horror can be cathartic for some people. You know, you can work through your damage vicariously through it, or it can just stoke the furnace. You're just like feeding logs of hate into your burning hate machine, and then just firing it out at people. I think one response is a lot more useful than the other. And you recognize those people when you see them coming, because they stomp very loudly in the process of announcing themselves. And but at the same time, it's like it kind of makes me sad for them because they're missing so much.
Yeah, I did an Instagram live the other day for George Romero's birthday with his daughter Tina, and
yes.
You know, as you know, Tina is got a zombie movie out, and it's a comedy, and it's Queens of the Dead, and it's set at a drag show and all that stuff. As expected, a lot of folks show up just sort of like going, she's ruining her dad's legacy, and you know, this is a nepo baby shit, and looking for a reason to hate on the subject matter. And even in this Instagram live, which was, you know, well attended by folks, I couldn't help but clock some people just rolling in and going, what's this shit? Like, just, is this making you feel better, dude? Is this helping you to just literally come in and piss on someone else's picnic? Like, what are you getting out of it? No one cares.
I just want attention. It's like Grandpa Simpson.
Yeah. I've never wanted to. you know, and I'm sure there are people that think I'm a love attention, but like this job has forced me into a certain sort of public space. I've struggled with it. I've accepted it. I'm trying to do something cool with this platform while I have it, right? And there's nothing lasts forever. But I just never understood somebody who needs attention so badly that they've got to come in and just start just flinging pain at strangers. And it's kind of, sadly, I'm not going to blue sky horror all day. Like, it's rife in the horror community, and it pisses me off.
I can't help but feel though that this is damage manifesting. You know, that this is you know, hurt people, and that it's just an unhealthy way to brandish your wounds as opposed to actually trying to heal them. Again, it's just you know, stoking the furnace as opposed to turning down the fucking thermostat.
Right.
And yeah, and again, we are in a culture that rewards this behavior with clicks, and if we need any evidence that our culture is unhealthy, it would be that you know, that you can get attention just by being the meanest, most uncharitable motherfucker on earth, you know. And yeah, I mean, it's like walking in with a, hey, I'm an angry shitbag and I'm here to shit on your lunch. It is, I just don't think it's a winning strategy. But it gets a lot of clicks.
Yeah, I guess you get a little dopamine hit from engagement online or whatnot, but it's just I don't know, it's just no way to live.
There's no way to live. And I'll tell you what, the dope in dopamine has never seemed more apt than in those particular contexts.
Well said.
So that's some dumb shit. Wow. Okay, we've been going for like a little over an hour now, and I think that's probably about right. We're at a good note. Is there anything you want to like wrap it up on?
No, I want to say how grateful I am that you are around and engaged with both the genre and with us as a brand. You're one of the names I remember, you know, reading as a kid in the magazine, and it's such a, I don't know, it's like you know, as a creator, you know that like you can get 98 nice comments and you'll fixate on the 2 negative ones, and
right.
So I worry that I do that too much, and it's really kind of cool to talk to folks who have as much skin in this game as I do, who get what I'm trying to do, or who have words of encouragement like you've given me since we've been talking. And I'm just glad you're here. I'm just glad that we're still out there doing the thing, and that you're and that you've been so kind and generous with your words and your attention for the brand, because it's like you said, it's crazy that we have a print magazine out in 2026. It's crazy that our numbers are going up somehow, and you know, I love it. And I just want to keep doing it as long as it's working for some folks, and as long as I'm still able to kind of come up with cool new things to do. I'm having a great time with Fango, and you know, I need to sort of focus on voices like yours and voices like new readers that show up, and it's a cool time. Like I don't envy some of the folks who edited Fangoria during some periods of horror. Like, I think that there were certain periods that were like, I think fallow would be a generous way of putting it, but I'm running Fango when we are in a absolute golden age of horror, and so I try not to take that for granted, and I try not to get crusty and calcified about it, like you said, because you know, I can do that, but I try to surround myself with like younger voices and voices that are unlike my own, to kind of like show me this space through their lens, and that keeps me excited and engaged.
That's huge, man. You have great voices surrounding you, and I think you're doing a really, really, really great job.
Thanks.
I really dig your magazine. I really dig where you're coming from on it. So thanks, man. I appreciate you. And this has been really fun. And let's do it again sometime.
You say when.
You got it, man.